If you love to bay fish, know that the redfish on the jetties is still on fire. You waders can keep it cool catching trout on the flats. The bass and crappies are still in a deep water pattern. If you want to know the 411 this week, stay tuned because it's time for the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. I'm Captain Rick Murphy, and guess who's back? The one and only Brie. The lovely
hi,
Brie.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be back. You know, Rick, it looks like everything has been running a little bit smoothly since I've been gone.
A little bit.
A little bit. But, you know, I had baby Leo a couple weeks ago, and he is thriving. Look at them in his bucket. We had his newborn photos, so I thought I'd bring those to the show today. And, of course, he's fishing on the dock already. But he's amazing. He's a big boy, 9 pounds, 7 ounces, as you heard, and he's doing good.
Weird.
Typical new parent things, you know, not sleeping, eating a lot, but, you know, it's been good.
Personally speaking,
yes.
I'm more than happy to have you back.
Thanks.
I don't like driving the bus.
No.
I like being the little kid in the back raising all the hell.
All right, well, I'm going to be the bus driver today, but I've missed everyone, including Mr. Dave Farrell at the workbench. Dave, did you miss me?
I did.
Oh, good.
I really did.
I'm sure you did.
That baby in the bucket's funny.
Oh, you know.
I like the baby in the
I
bucket.
always have to do something. Put me in a pumpkin.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, the Fish Bites Upper Coast region is getting us started for the weekend, so get ready to learn how you're going to beat the heat with Captain Carl Weston. Tell us what we're catching, Carl.
Well, Brie, the heat is definitely on here, and this week, last 2 weeks, it's been really hot. But between the Texas heat hitting triple digits and the trout bite staying on fire, still been a really good week like we were talking about. Fishing has definitely improved from that recent hurricane that went east. It pushed a lot of nice water our way. The moon phase is back right. That improved salinity of water continues to provide a great bite. East and West Galveston Bay has been on 2 different playing fields this week. As we reported last week, the intel that St. Louis Pass is hot is right. The influx of that cleaner Gulf water dumping into the pass is a definite positive for fishing this week, guys. And any live bait option is going to be the preference of the trout this week. The artificial plastics are doing well. The Bass Assassin 4-inch shrimp are doing very well. The Fish Bites 3.5 in that fighting shrimp hammer fist. Hard to say, but it's a great bait, great option. And guys, if you're going with the artificial, go with a little heavier jig head on these shrimp this week. Try to get down in that cooler water. Seems like the fish are in 4 to 6 foot, and we have a picture today. The Go and Get 'em crew with a nice stringer of trout.
Man, they did get them. All right, tell me about the redfish, bub.
Well, up in Sabine Lake, the reports are coming in that they're pretty steady as well. The redfish, they're getting them on mullet over there around the Louisiana Bay area. And moving over to East Galveston Bay by the shorelines and jetties, been holding really good bait. The redfish never far behind them. As you know, they're chasing them. West Galveston Bay this week has been a great place for the guys wade fishing. We are hearing from all the latest reports. And when targeting these fish this week, shrimp and finger mullet are the best natural bait. If you're going artificial, the Berkley, gulp, and shrimp or shad with a 1/2-inch jig will get the trick done as well. Rick, we got a picture today of a nice little deck layout of some fish there today.
Looks beautiful. All right, let's go offshore. Keep it going.
Okay, let's talk about amberjack. Rolling into month number 2 in the amberjack season. It's been a little tough. Anglers are bringing in some really nice fish, and we have seen some fish up in the 80-pound range as far this year, which, you know, that's some studs right there. Live bait is still a must for this species. I'll say at times it's been harder to find bait than it has been to find the fish, and then to find them in the mood to eat has been tough too. But structure in the 150-foot range on out to 200 is producing some nice fish, as we said. The trick to figuring out the right spot these days, you know, get on that Garmin machine and look for the fish. Look at your spots. Look at your underwater structure. Suspended about midway in the water column, you'll see those big heavy marks. If you see those marks, most likely that's your amberjack. I use a strong trocar hook, like a 10-aught, tied to a minimum of a 200-pound leader. We use diamond. That's my preference on the leader and the reel. An expensive tip or catch of a lifetime can be run quickly by cheap line guys. Don't go cheap when you're going after these fish. They're just too strong. And we have a picture today of a few on the cleaning table getting ready to get filleted out.
Nice. Tell me about the mahis, bub.
So let's talk about, it's one of both of our favorite fish to catch, and we couldn't pass up talking about this week with the great weed lines in from that hurricane. Past 2 weeks, I've found some of the best conditions for Dorado that I have seen probably in years here in the Upper Coast. Right now, guys, in the 200-foot depth range, we have some beautiful blue water pushing in from the east, and I mean, it's clean, cobalt blue. And you know, the weeds and debris are right there stacking up against the inshore current. And it's paid off this week. We have fished it a good bit. Finding the bait along these weed lines is also a really good telltale. Look for the birds working. They'll work right over the bait underneath the grass and the debris. Trolling here has been a must. Watch your speed. You know, keep your range between 6 and 9 knots. When you find that sweet spot, you'll know you'll start getting hit. We run a spread with larger and smaller baits, just because sometimes the smaller Dorado will hit first, and the big fish will be not too far behind. The R&R Tackle Mahi Magnet in the 4 3/4 inch is a great size for smaller fish, and the big fish will hit it too. We've got some nice big bulls this week, probably the biggest I've caught in 5 years. And
tell me about the photo, Carl.
Nancy.
Tell me about the photo. We got to go.
Nancy with a big bull.
All right, man. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the R&R Tackle hotspots from the Upper Coast region. Carl says inshore, trouts and Louis Pass. Troll in soft plastics such as fish bites and bass assassins. Then offshore, Dorado, troll weed lines and R&R Mahi magnets and 200 feet of water and out.
That was an awfully blue mahi.
That was.
Love those. All right, we're now venturing into the Upper Fresh region and seeing what's biting on Tawakoni and Lake Ray Hubbard with Johnny Geis. Take us into the weekend, Johnny.
Hello, Rick. Congratulations again, Brie. Well, let's start off tonight with talking about the stripes. I'm talking about hybrids and stripers over on Lake Tawakoni. Man, they're biting great as usual this time of year. And guide buddy Matt Cartwright, man, he's reporting that the live bait bite finally slowed, and he's glad that changed, so he didn't have to get up so early to catch them. But now they're biting artificials, and he's found some great action. On one of his recent trips, located an acre or so of fish, scootling like crazy right at daylight, no other boats in sight. His customers caught fish for over an hour, released a lot of big stripers and hybrids. The topwater popper baits are working good with the surfacing fish, but so is that Alabama rig, catching more than one at a time. Flutter spoons working in big slabs. The Tawakoni stripers, man, they're following those big gizzard shad around the lake. There's usually a good bite going on off all main lake points. Good electronics and great experience are what these fish need to keep them located, and Matt has both of those. He usually keeps his customers in fast action all morning long. Here's a couple of pictures he shared from a recent trip, and as you can see, man, his clients go home with some smiling faces and bags of fillets. Look at the size of those big stripers and hybrids caught on topwater baits.
I think I want to come do that, Johnny. All right, tell me about the crappies.
Yeah, real quick, the 5 fish aggregate limit on striper and hybrids, so give Matt a call if you want to catch some. The crappie, man, they're biting great on Lake Ray Hubbard. Guide buddy Kerry Thorne, he's moved his operation from Lake Levon over to Ray Hubbard due to that high water situation on Levon. He reports that the crappie bite's about as good as it gets under the highway bridges. He's also fishing brush piles for numbers, but the bigger crappie are holding in that 14 to 16 foot timber. He's catching the larger black crappie above the I-30 bridge, and he advises to focus on those visible trees that are closer to the drop-offs and the feeder creeks. Kerry's hitting the brush piles in the 12 to 22 foot range, and the best areas are around mid-lake from the power plant back north. He's also fishing those flooded trees and finding the big crappies suspending down a little bit deeper, 14 to 16 foot. When it gets hot, Kerry takes his customers over to the shade under the highway bridges. The pylons and the shade are a magnet for those hungry crappie where they ambush that bait blowing through the bridge. Sometimes that wind requires you to use a full 1 ounce weight to hold the bin in front of the crappie, he says, but once he determines which pylon's holding the most crappie, you usually find more crappie on similar pylons right down the edge of the bridge. Of course, that live scope speeds up the search and makes it easy to find those best areas. Kerry shared this picture of customers with a tailgate full of crappie and white bass, and he had some cleaning to do on that one.
Wow.
Hey, the hybrid stripers right there on Ray Hubbard, they're running too. They're up there with schools of white bass every morning, and Kerry's finding some great topwater bite early, usually before 8 a.m. He's using some small topwater lures around the 2 to 3 inch to catch the most of the whites, but you can change over, he says, with that 4 to 6 inch larger topwater, and those hybrid stripers will blow up as well. He's casting 2-ounce slabs. Once they move out to deeper water and white or chartreuse, and then he locates those larger hybrids and whites pretty close by. So once that surface action slows, Kerry turns on this thumper. That's that device that calls those fish under the boat and uses it to around 9:30 or 10 o'clock when the feeding stops. About time to go home at that time. Kerry sent us this next picture. Man, a customer with a couple of big hybrids he caught right there on topwater. Oh, looks like some great action going on Ray Hubbard. And old Kerry Thorne, give him a call if you want to get in some action over there right out of Dallas. Hey, the annual Big Sealy Big Bass Splash Tournament's next weekend. It usually draws anglers, over 3,000 anglers from all over the United States. They got over $500,000 in cash and prizes. They're up for grabs for the largest bass each hour. The Bass Bottom Fork, I have to tell you, still been pretty tough lately, but someone's going to win those hourly checks and overall prizes. Right now, the shaky head worms fished around the brush piles should catch some big fish. And also, the Carolina rig fluke type bait will win a lot of money. The weather forecast is looking good for the upper fresh region. Some lucky anglers going to win that first place boat, so get out and try them there. Could be you, but you can't win if you don't go fishing. Good luck, guys.
All right, thank you so much, Johnny. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the upper fresh region. He says stripers and white bass are biting great on Lake Tawakoni. Topwater's best early in the morning, schoolers. And then the slabs on the flutter spoons are going to be caught later in the day. Swim baits in 20 to 25 feet. And then Ray Hubbard Lake is fishing good at this time. Hybrids and sand bass are providing the best action on topwater lures. Crappie are good on minnows, jigs, under the bridges, and on those brush piles he was talking about, Bree.
All right, Rick, next up we're taking you to the Garmin Middle Coast region, but first we're taking you over to the workbench with Dave Farrell. Dave, what are we talking about today?
Well, look, I can walk and talk too.
Oh, you're
We have
so
a whiteboard. We're gonna do some whiteboard talk and do some trolling 101. How to catch those dolphins that are out there.
See, Bree, we had to get creative while you were gone.
I see that. It's
keep
working.
it entertaining.
It's working. I'm entertained. We'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Bajío. Fresh eyes for a rich life. Garmin. Plot your paradise. FIBERTEX. Leaders in fiberglass fabrication and repair. Sportsman's Adventures. Fishing for adventure. Penn. Let the battle begin. And SKEETER Performance Fishing Boats. Eat, sleep, fish.
You know, we're here at the workbench, and
Yes, sir.
I see a white chalkboard. I feel like I'm going to school.
Well,
so
hopefully
Dave,
we're gonna go to a little bit of trolling school. You know, the fellow's talking about catching a bunch of dolphin out there, and the best way to catch dolphin is by trolling. But you know, a lot of people are a little intimidated. You know, they see all the stuff on TV and all the lines everywhere, and they get a little freaked out. But it's really fairly simple, and I'm just going to answer some of the basic questions that I get asked a lot.
Yeah.
And you know, the first one is, how far back are you putting stuff? And you know, you can have 5 or 6 lines out there, but you really want to put the long riggers here about as far back as the captain can see from the flying bridge, because if he can see the baits, and he can see a fish coming up on him, and if the angler has the rod in his hand before the fish eats, our chances of catching him goes way up. So the best answer is as far as the captain can see your long baits. The guys in the cockpit can usually see the shorts and the short rigger baits, but the long baits, the furthest ones back, you don't want them so far back that the captain can see it. And how many lines you want to put out? You know, I've got like 6 lines up here, a short, a middle, a long, and a shotgun. That's, you know,
that's 7 lines.
7 lines. That's quite a bit. You know, if I was a first-time guy, you could easily take those 2 shorts out and just run the short riggers and just run these 2 flat lines and the long riggers and have 4 out and the shotgun. Now, when you're putting these lures out, you notice I've got them all even. You know, the short riggers are at the same spot. The flat lines are at the same spot. The long riggers are in the same position. The reason being is if I make a turn, all those baits will follow me and they won't cross over. Now, when you have this shotgun way out here, this can be the bad factor. If you make it too sharp a turn with that shotgun out there, you can get in trouble.
So how fast are you trolling these, Dave?
Well,
if it's just lures, you troll a little faster, yes?
Yeah, if you're covering ground when you first start out, you know, and you have all lures out, you can go 7 to 8 knots, 9 knots. But the rule of thumb is you can go as fast as you can go until your lures start tumbling. Right. You know, all you want to do is keep your stuff in the water. We can't hardly troll them fast enough for them not to catch them. I mean, you can get a bite going 18 knots from a marlin or a wahoo. So, you know, but when you're trolling lures, 7, 8, 9 knots is about as fast as you want to go. When you're putting dead baits out and wanting to slow down and cover ground, it's 4 to 6 knots. Or if you have really bad bait, you got to go 4 knots because it'll fall apart, depending on how good your bait is. Right. You know, and that's what you want to do. So, and you want to also, where do you put them in the spread? You know, it really doesn't matter where in the spread. You know, a lot of guys will talk about which wave they want this lure on or whatever, but as long as you put them parallel, that's all I really care about. You know, you put your big lures close to the boat, you know, and your light stuff way back and your naked baits on the riggers, because you don't want all that heavy weight pulling on your outriggers.
And when you hook a fish, keep it in gear.
Keep it going straight. Don't stop immediately, even if it's a marlin, don't stop immediately and start winding all your stuff in, because if you do that, you're not going to get a shot at a double header. If you turn the boat and just reel the stuff on the inside of the turn where the fish is going, if you reel the stuff on the inside, keep fishing with the stuff on the outside, that's how you get double and triple headers of sailfish and marlin and dolphins and tunas.
Wahoos,
you know,
too.
If the first marlin comes up and eats and we stop the boat and everybody spends 10 minutes starting to wind all the stuff in, all the riggers, all the teasers and whatnot, then it takes a long time and the fish is getting further and further away. So we want to turn and go to them as soon as we can.
I really enjoyed this tonight. We're going to have to do more of this. Don't
School
you agree?
Is back in session. Dave, I learned a lot. Glad I came back to the show. All right, we're seeing what the Garmin Middle Coast region has to boast about inshore and offshore with Captain Bink Grimes. So, Bink, let's hear it.
I'll tell you what, the reefs in East Bay have been players for a month. And with the shrimp migrating through the bay, waders working those mid-bay reefs have enjoyed excellent results on sheep pups and bass assassins while working the edges of the reefs for those really big trout. The great thing about East Bay is you don't have to wade to find a big trout. Sure, the water clarity's got to be good, the weather's got to be good, but half of the big trout that we release on my boat come while drifting deep shell. And there's very few locales in Texas that can make that boast. If this holds true to form, expect to see some bird action pretty soon. Last year, the bird action began in early October and continued through December. There's no reason not to expect the same right now through the middle of September to start seeing the shorelines flood with bait shrimpers, and there a lot of shrimp on the shoreline right now. And so that should transcend to the middle of the bay as well. West Matagorda Bay's been good while waiting for trout along the south shoreline. Those tossing topwaters have found bigger trout along the grass lines with the high tides. Half Moon Reef, Coon Island Reef, and reefs in Turtle Bay have been good on live shrimp under a popping cork. Rockport waders, they found large trout on corkies and topwaters in the guts around Carlos and Mesquite Bay. Most of those fish are hanging around the reefs and also in those sand and grass potholes. In Puerto Cana, the reefs in San Antonio Bay have been good with the calm winds. Waders and both boaters have found trout on the edge of those reefs on live bait and soft plastic. Freeport anglers, they found steady catches around the jetties while tossing live shrimp. Lots of sand trout in there as well. And in the reefs, the bass drop have paid off as well. with the higher tides. Redfish in September, it's a high tide thing. It's been a boon for redfish. Again, there are a lot of shrimp in the back lakes and marshes right now, and so a lot of those redfish are hanging tight to the grass line, and we're getting them on small topwaters and live shrimp. Good spots like Cutoff Flats, Zipperon, Bayou, Shell Island, Twin Island, they're all players in West Bay. All those fish begin to move into the bays. They're found on those grassy shorelines, like we said, on both the north and south side. Most will toss shrimp up against the edge of the grass, and some will troll down the shoreline with the small top waters like mirror lure sheep pups and she dogs. Some of the largest redfish we found in East Bay this month under birds. When things are really firing off, there'll be 10 to 20 groups in the bay, and there'll be one group with trout underneath them. The other group will be redfish. I like to throw tandem rig bass assassins underneath them and see if I can catch 2 redfish at a time before they just absolutely annihilate my drag. Waders along the south shoreline of West Bay will work the points, the shell, and purple demon, little johns, and bass assassins. If you want to work both redfish and black drum, take a bucket of live shrimp and work those points with a cork. Rig it about probably a foot deep. And then Rockport, those back lakes, Allen's Bight, the marshes of San Jose Island hold lots of redfish. The Estes Flats are great, throwing a small top water with high tides. And then right now in all of Texas, all the jetties are players. Mullet, crab, shrimp is the ticket. One cast will be an oversized bull redfish. The next cast will be a slot redfish. Offshore, it's been kind of bumpy out there. It's calm one day, bumpy the next. We got a lot of low pressure out in the Gulf. And it's been good for amberjack in about 150 foot of water around the wreck. Cutoff rigs have been good for AJs and grouper as well. Guy Michael Quebec has said the shrimp boats continue to hold lots of cobia, blackfin tuna, kingfish, and there's a grass lines that are holding all those Dorado out there as well. Billfish action has improved lately on the breaks and the hilltops with a lot of tilefish and barrelfish showing up about 80 to 90 miles offshore. So, our offshore game and inshore game has been good. We've had another great week in the Garmin Middle Coast region. In September, we'll be hunting teal in the morning and fishing in the afternoons. And it's just a great time of year. We ask you to please continue to take care of our bays and oceans. And Brie, it's great to have you back.
All right, thank you so much, Bink. We're going to go and take a look at the mirror lure hotspots from the Middle Fresh region. Bink says the trout are good while tossing live shrimp on the edges of the reef and Bass Drop Bay. Redfish are solid at all the jetties on crabs, mullets, and shrimp as well.
All right, folks, here we are in September, and we only have a few weeks before this beautiful 1952 Chevy 3100 Hot Rod finds a new home. And all you have to do to win is purchase raffle tickets at ccaflorida.org/hot rod, and the winner will be chosen at the end of the month.
That's right.
That's right. All right, well, everyone, good luck. The Startron Middle Fresh and Alvy Reel's Lower Coast regions are looking like a good time this weekend, so get ready to get your fish on when we come back right here on the Texas Insider
Fishing Report.
Oh, we're a team again.
Yes.
We'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Contender Boats, always in the game. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Alvy Reels, a better way to fish. Berkley, your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Penn, let the battle begin.
Hey gang, I'm Captain Jim Ross, and I guide out of a SKEETER SX240 every day as one of the national team members of SKEETER boats. Now, here's a really great feature about this boat that I can't show you on camera, but I can show you if you see some running shots. The bottom of this boat slices through the water unlike any other bay boat in this class. It rides softer and drier, even though it has lower gunnels than everything else. That allows you to keep your trolling motor turned down if you fish from the boat and get close enough to the fish to actually make a cast to them without spooking them from the noise of the trolling motor. other boats that have higher sides, you can't do that because the wind is blowing you and you have to adjust the trolling motor to keep you in place. That's one of the great features. Here's another feature. You can walk all around the deck of this boat. I can put 2 anglers up here. I can even put 3 anglers up here at times, and those anglers can walk all over the place. This boat is extremely stable in the water. Other boats with different dead rises and different hull configurations do not have that capability. Getting up and down is very easy. As you can see, there's steps everywhere. You've got a console that has everything that you need right at the touch of your hand. It's got all your bait well features, all your lights, everything's right here. It's even got a tilt steering wheel for some of you guys and gals that like to adjust that. Now, coming to the back of the boat, you've got a huge live well underneath this additional cushion. You've got a huge space back here where you can actually work on things that you need to get to. Bait well pumps, strainers, water fuel separators. You're not going through a little tiny hatch like this one down here in the floor. You've got an entire big hatch that you can get your whole body in. You don't have to wonder, am I going to be able to reach that or not? You can get to it in this boat. Every single Skeeter boat is rigged with a Yamaha on a jack plate. You can either get it hydraulic like this Atlas, or you can get it static. But Yamaha and Skeeter, that combination is a winner for you guys and gals to get out there and catch fish.
Well, I think he covered just about every bit of it.
I got nothing to say.
He did
it perfect.
He's a Skeeter man.
Yes.
All right, in the StarTron Middle Fresh region, we're looking at all the players this weekend. Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn, Richland Chambers, and LBJ with Matt Losher to guide us through it all. Tell us all about it, Matt.
All right, Brie. Hey, it's great to have you back with us.
Thank you. Good to be back.
We're going to start this week with the largemouth bass here at the eastern edge of my region at Toledo Bend. First off, the water level is now in the low 168 range, so it's come down quite a bit even since last week. The temperature is hovering in the upper 80s, and the water is clean on the main lake, slightly stained in the creek, but it's pretty clean everywhere. Our bass bite is starting to improve this week. We've seen things starting to get better. With that water getting down to its lower levels, we're also starting to see some big fish set up on some deeper offshore spots in about 15 to 25 foot of water. Now, some of these spots are the ones that kind of look good when the water's higher, but they're just a little too deep then. And so now with that water level coming down, these spots are coming into play. You're going to want to focus on the hard spots where there's a clay bottom that's real rough, or edges of the flats where there's some stumps that have good expansive root systems making a hard bottom. And for bait, a big 11-inch Bass Assassin worm is great. A deep diving Berkley crankbait is also great. On that stuff, you want to focus on big bait, something that gets their attention. I like a darker color on the worm, like a June bug, and on the crankbait, something that really stands out that's bright, like a chartreuse and blue back is good. Now over at Sam Rayburn, more of the same. These two lakes are fishing very similar lately. Kind of the same thing's been going on with the water falling. The water level over there is about a foot below pool now. So the fish are using some spots that have been out of play all summer thanks to the flood conditions. Now there's a lot of good area to cover over there right now in about 15 to 25 foot. The fish like to set up in brush and around stumps on the sharp drops. Texas rigged worms, Carolina rigs, and crankbaits are all really good there. And don't forget about that topwater bite as well. There's still a lot of fish schooling, so keep a walking bait rig handy for keep making long casts when they come up schooling. They can pop up at any time. Now up at Richland Chambers, Mr. Thurman Selman at Bass Specialty Guide Service says the shallow bite there has been improving, but it is still mostly an early morning and late evening deal. His bigger fish are still coming from deeper structure, and big worms and jigs are working good for him. He's putting a skunk ape on his jig as a trailer, and that's been working really good for him. He's using the skunk ape that has the chartreuse tails on it, and that's been helping him catch some fish. Then on the dock, he's also catching some fish on a tap-out worm, and he's using a 1/4 ounce shaky head with that. So there's a lot of different patterns working at Richland Chambers. I like it when a lake fishes that way because it really helps everybody spread out, and you can fish the way you like to. Now last but certainly not least, Lake LBJ. The water temp there is in the upper 80s also. Jared Poole with Hill Country Hammer Guides and Outfitters has been putting some good fish in the boat there lately. He's been relying on a Carolina rig and a football jig a lot as well to catch his fish in about 15 to 25 foot of water. And he's mentioned that he's starting to see some fish chasing bait early in the morning and late in the evening over there as well. So definitely more activity starting to happen this week. And I'm going to leave the bass report with a photo that Jared sent me of 15-year-old Mr. Tyler Kirkpatrick with his personal best bass that he caught with Jared this past weekend. So congrats, Tyler. Real nice fish you got there, man.
Good job, bud.
Switching over to the crappie. They made a lot of fishermen happy through the Labor Day weekend. A lot of families out there catching them, having a good time on Sam Rayburn and Toledo Bend. Over at Rayburn, you'll want to look for them in 15 to 30 foot of water, maybe even a little deeper if you're on the bridge piling. Shade is still a major key to catching the crappie on these still summer days we've been having. So focus on the shady side of the stumps, shady side of the bridge piling, or even the shady side of the boat if you're sitting on top of fish and you've been there for a few minutes. At Toledo Bend, also look for the crappie in about 15 to 30 foot around the timber and the bridge piling. Once again, using that shade to your advantage. Live minnows and jigs both work great right now, but the best bite is by far getting back away from the school of fish and casting that panfish assassin tiny shad to them on either a 16th or a 32nd ounce jig head. I let the wind determine the weight of the jig head, but the main thing is just keeping the boat off the fish a little ways, a short casting distance, throw that jig over there, and let it slowly sink down over the school.
Tell me about the photo, bub. Yeah.
With a photo here of Kelly and Ryan, big mess of nice slabs we caught, doing just that, casting that panfish assassin jig.
Looks great. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the middle fresh hot spots. He says big largemouth bass are being caught in the deeper structure on worms, jigs, and crankbaits. Some smaller bass are feeding in the shallows early and late. And then the crappie are biting jigs and live minnows in 15 to 30 feet of water, Brie.
Okay, this weekend in the Alvey Reels Lower Coast region, Captain Chad Kinney is telling us where the redfish and trout are hiding and how we might be able to snag a ling or an AJ. So talk to us, Chad.
You're right. Everything's on fire here. I've been talking about September being my favorite month, and it's coming true. Finally, we've had great weather, which goes right in line with great fish, and everything's going. Everything's hitting on all cylinders. So I'm going to start out with the inshore. Been talking about redfish. It continues still being really good numbers from like Arroyo City all the way up north to the land cut. And there's some really solid numbers and good solid tide runner trout, some heavy trout being caught, and a few actually scattered flounder, which is a little harder to catch in the mix. I'm going to start off with redfish. And so they're holding those breaks off the flats there, kind of like north of East Cut. Also that King Ranch shoreline I've been talking about, with these calmer winds, it's a lot easier to read the water for everybody. You'll see those schools, breaks pushing. They're holding really good numbers. Like I said, some of those bigger schools are showing up. Start out early is really the key. Look for bait and look for those big schools. The main thing is get a boat, like a shallow sport. You can cruise slowly on plane. When I'm talking about like cruising slowly, it'll be a full plane. You won't hurt the bottom or nothing. 18, 22 mile an hour on that shallow sport. You can cruise it so you can get there. Don't be spot fishing and go 50 or 60. You're going to pass up all these fish. It just gives you a lot better view on all the bait and the redfish movement. And in a rig up with the Berkley J Walker right away, talked about this last week, 100. Get ready to cast in these things. If you get in that school, there's going to be wakes pushing, going. People are getting excited. But as soon as you shut down, kind of slides, it's barely getting casting distance, hook up, and it's a blast, and kind of continue to do that. There's been a lot of undersized redfish in there, but there's been plenty of slot redfish also in that stuff. And the rule of thumb is get later in the day, guys, in the morning. Basically, all that bait, whether on the west shoreline or east shoreline, is going to kind of start falling out deeper. So you might be starting out knee deep or mid-calf deep or so like that. Before you know it, 10:30 is going on, and those fish are going to be in that waist-deep water. And after they drop off from there, it's really start harding to find them. So get up early and have some fun. The trout back I mentioned is really turned on. Live croaker is definitely the way to go right now. They're really hitting that hard. The Alvey is what we're rigging them up with. We're using a 60-80 spinner, and I'm attaching that with a good Fenwick light to medium action rod there. Freeline these baits definitely on the edge of the grass beds. That 4 to 5 foot of water is pretty much it. If you're fishing out of Mansfield here, like I said, they've been hitting like Community Bar, which is just north of Mansfield. The breaks along the weather station farther up north, holding solid fish. And then moving over to some quick flounder stuff. Flounder's not a huge numbers right now, guys, but we're seeing a lot of smaller ones coming up. But if you're fishing tournaments, they'll always put them in there. It's a key thing. It's kind of a kicker deal for the tournament. It'll put you over the edge. Or if you enjoy just a challenge, go for it. But there is some getting out there. Right now, you can concentrate kind of under the docks, definitely the guts and drop-offs along the east cuts all the way up to the land cut. Live bait works well, or use a 1/4 ounce jig head with a fish bite attached and do a slow retreat and work those edges. Got a nice picture here of Captain Charlie Buchan out of Mansfield here. They fished a tournament, which I said was a kicker. That flounder kicked them over the top, got them the top two. So moving into offshore, Love this time of year for offshore. You can't beat it. Has everything to offer right now. You got state water snapper, to lings, kings, bills, wahoo, dorado, and everything. You got amberjack, everything you think of. So kind of plan what you want to do, target for it. Look at the weather. It's been pretty solid. It doesn't get any better pretty much in September, cruising into October. So we're going to talk a little bit about ling, which is normally a little bit closer. Smaller boats, any type of boats you can reach and get to it. It's pretty decent right now. We don't have those big, massive herds, like you can hear in some places moving along, but we do have good, solid numbers in there. I like using a pin spin fisher, about a 5,500, 6,500 with a blue carnage jigging rod. Have this one ready or have two. One, rig it with a 1 ounce trocar jig made by Eagle Claw with a little split down by through the fish bite, split right down through the middle. So attach it on there, kind of cut it right down the middle. It'll make it feathery. The other one, just having an Eagle Claw live bait hook with it, with a piece of squid kind of ready to pitch it to the ling. These fish will pop out of nowhere, so be ready and try to be ready for them. You can catch them at oil rigs, wrecks, debris floating, shrimp boats while you're drifting for snapper. So throw a little trim out once in a while. They'll get curious fish. When it pops up, they'll just pop up right there, pitch it to them, then let them run for a while and stick them. Got a picture of Joe Sosa here that actually works for me at the marina. He's never been offshore before. He caught a 40-pound ling there. So moving over to amberjack. Amberjack, a lot of guys like to tug on these things and have a lot of fun, and now's the season to do it. They're in really good numbers out there. You can find a good wreck on rocks, oil platform. Get your trocar jig out there, 3 to 7 ounce with a big strip of fish bites on it. Kind of split that down the middle too. Help a little bit of action on it. These fish are going to be normally suspended, so you vertically jig it and use your Garmin to kind of see what depth it at on your sonar. Once you find that strike zone, just keep on repeating it. On this one, I definitely kind of bump it up at least to a 5,500 to like an 8,500 on your Penn battle or spin fisher with that blue carnage rod. It makes it really great. It has great grips. I've been talking about it, and it'll make it a lot easier to bring those big leaf donkeys up.
Tell me about the photo, Chad.
Yep, got a solid dice, pretty amberjack here, so the weather conditions are great, so I'll see y'all out in the water.
All right, bud, thank you so much. It's time for the Shallow Sport Boats hotspot from the Lower Coast region. Chad says inshore, redfish are good numbers in the flats and King Ranch shoreline from Port Mansfield to the land cut. Trout fishing has really picked up in the last couple of weeks with some flounder in the mix. And then offshore continues to be great. Snapper fishing in state waters, and the pelagics are out deep, Brie.
All right, we're casting into the lower fresh region when we come back. But first, Dave Farrell's looking mighty ready to show off some shiny new products
Mighty ready.
at the workbench. Dave, are you ready?
Yeah, look at this little beauty. Look at this jewel.
Knew he was going to pick that up.
60 pounds of drag.
What?
Yeah, that's a lot of drag for a little reel.
Little purple reel.
You might be able to stop
Eggplant.
Leo feeding with that 60 pounds of drag.
Eggplant.
Very
Okay.
nice, very nice.
If that's the case, I'm taking it home.
All right.
We'll be back.
That man's on a hunt.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Ameritrail. Load, launch, relax. Fenwick. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a Mirrorlure. Diamond Fishing Products. Our reputation is on the line. R&R Tackle. From our tackle box to yours. Berkley. Your fish, our science. And TRON. Cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems.
Today's Power Pole tip is about how I really love how the charge really helps me extend my day of fishing. Now let me explain. When we're running up and down the beach chasing schools of tarpon, or maybe on a spot lock in a channel situation, we're really using a lot of voltage out of our trolling motors. Now, when I hook a fish and I simply jump down and turn that switch and start the big motor, now I immediately start replenishing my trolling motor battery voltage. That's what the charge does. I also have the ability to monitor exactly what's going on with those batteries. And in Florida, when we have 14-hour days, this could really extend your whole day of fishing. So keep in mind that whenever you're fishing and you need to recharge your trolling motor system, all you have to do is simply turn the key on, and now you have the ability to recharge your trolling motor system. If you have any questions, you can go to powerpole.com, and that's today's Power Pole tip. Dave, you got some really cool products
Yeah, we do.
tonight.
We do. We really do.
This is obviously part of ICAST.
Right,
Some of the stuff falling in here.
Some of it. Well, like the turtle box down there at the end, a lot of times we'll bring the little Bluetooth speakers along.
Right.
And I've got several. I've bought tons of them. And what what's wrong with most of them is you just can't make them loud enough when you're out on a boat or on the beach.
You can't hear them when you're running.
You can't hear them when you're running ever. Well, this thing from Turtle Box is waterproof and rugged and loud. You know.
Well, that's their goal.
It's really loud.
So their goal is to create the loudest, clearest, portable unit in the business.
Crystal clear distortion with, you know, a lot of sound, and it travels. It's made for the outdoors. Their frequency, you know, they build it around a frequency that travels a long way and is good for the outdoors to go over wind and waves and sand. So, you know, that's really cool. It's got 20 hours of easy listening if you want to, you know, without it all the way up to max. If you put on max, you can get 6 hours of max. Whoa. It's going to be pretty loud. Your head's going to be exploding after 6 hours. It's got 85.
Waterproof?
Yep, completely waterproof. It's got that little top thing up there. You unscrew that, and there's charge USBs for your charger, and
oh, nice.
Yeah, all kinds of little.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and that keeps everything
you see that
dry.
in there, Doug?
Yeah. You can connect 2 Bluetooths to it. Most of them you can only connect 1. Now you can connect 2 Bluetooths to this and have different stereo sound left, right in there. It only weighs about 10 pounds. Really good, easy to use knobs on the top and a 5 station battery. So indicator up there. Comes with a little charger as well. Got tie down anchors on it if you want to put it on the boat and it won't fall out.
Nice.
All kinds of little stuff.
You got it.
All right, next.
Where do you go? Turtlebox.com.
Correct.
All right.
Correct. Next, we got the Ultimate Magic Sponge and Scrub Extender. And what this does is it puts the Magic Sponge onto your pole, onto your mop.
Right. The other thing that's cool about this, Dave,
it's got the scrub on one side.
I use this all the time.
Yeah.
So because of this, you can hook it here.
Right.
And then what ends up happening is you have the ability now to have a larger magic eraser to where you don't have to bend over and do it by hand.
It fixes all the extended brush handles. It removes stains, you know, from fenders, moorings, you know, erases off dirt, grime, stains. You know, if you've ever used a magic eraser, they're magic. You know, they really are.
Magic sponge.
That gives you a really good reach, you know, so you don't have to bend over and hurt your back like I always do. Great for walls and stuff, this whole sides, everything.
Magic sponge and plus scuffs.
Yep. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about that Alvey Offshore OS 300 there. It's a conventional 2-speed reel, 60 pounds of drag for that little thing. It's made out of CNC out of a big block of 6061 aluminum. Even the handle is made out of one block. Yeah, they machine it out of one block. So it's got that a main gear that's machine cut stainless steel, holds 900 yards of 30-pound braid, left or right hand available. You know, 9 ball bearings, stainless steel in there. Just you pick it up and you go, oh boy, this thing's really nice.
60 pounds of drag.
60 pounds of drag. So you can troll with it or fish on the bottom.
Low and go.
Correct. Yep.
All right, tell me about these stiffies.
Next, we got some. Go to alveus.com to get that. All right, stiffy fiberglass push poles. These are the bottom end of your budget area with a stiffy. Really nice, 6.7 ounce per foot, still pretty light, almost indestructible. The good thing about these is you buy one, you're going to have it for your life. Right. You know, you can't break them. The ends are glass-filled nylon. It's got a pointer on one end and the mud foot on the other. They float.
Right.
You know, they're all individually handmade. All the stiffy poles are handmade one at a time. They can custom make them for you, make them a 2-piece, however long you want it. Just really good push poles.
This is a smaller diameter.
Right.
But this is the 100% E-glass. So it's a lot more flimsy, but a lot more affordable.
There you go.
Where do we go to find these, Dave?
Stiffypushpoles.com.
All right. Bree, we're done talking about our workbench segment, so go ahead.
All right, if you want some BASS in the lower fresh region, Matt Reed is starting you at Lake Falcon, Travis, Bastrop, Buchanan, and Choke Canyon, just to name a few. So tell us how we're catching them this weekend, Matt.
Hi, Brie. Good to have you back in this part of the world. Let me get this thing started with the bass down in the South Texas region. Falcon Lake, the bass are biting pretty well. My numbers are down a little bit. Probably catching 20 to 30 fish a day, but my size is very good.
The fish are still in the typical hot weather pattern. Main lake rock structures and man-made brush piles are the deal. Stand-up heads and Texas rig with plum apple soft plastics are generating the most bites. Deep crankbait bite is beginning to fire up also. Come on down and catch yourself some big ones. It's been a lot of fun. Brian Cotter sent me a report from the Austin area. Lake Travis is fishing decent. There's still some schooling fish early in the morning. Those schools are getting harder and harder to find, though, with it's getting late into the summer. When you find them, it's lights out. To catch them on a small swim bait, just let it fall, throw it on a belly-weighted hook, and just let it fall on a slack line through the water column, and they'll pick it up on the way down. They're also catching them on the main lake cuts and points near deep water with vegetation. That's really a great thing going on at Travis right now. You've got coontail and hydrilla beginning to grow, which is great habitat for the bass. Target them with a Texas rig around that vegetation. Also some on the deep ledges, and he's using Texas rigs and jigs to catch those fish. Like bass troughs fishing well, you can catch some in the discharge on a Texas rig worm early in the morning, but just letting the current carry it. You know, the discharge current, let the flow carry it just like you would in a tide. They'll pick it up as it moves down that canal. Also, there's more of a bite on the main lake. Use Texas rigs and small shaky heads to catch those fish out on the main lake. And while you're fishing around that grass, keep your eye open for schooling fish on top. When you find those, it can just be lights out. When they go down, use your forward-facing graph, forward-facing technology to find them. You can still catch them on a small jigging spoon. They'll be grouped up, and you can have a lot of fun. Lake Buchanan is coming alive a bit. They're catching some healthy largemouth over the rock piles using crankbaits, jigs, and even some spinnerbaits. Look for them also busting shad and throw a swim bait in there as well. Mike Bates has sent me a report from Choke Canyon. The water level has dropped a little bit just from evaporation. The hydrilla mats can be found from one end of the lake to the other, all the way from the main lake to up the river. And fishing them is definitely what you want to look for. Fish the inside lines of that vegetation with top waters and lipless crankbaits early in the morning. That bite's lasting from 9:30 to 10 o'clock, depending on the weather. After that, you get on the outside edge with a Texas rig, soft plastic, and that's a great way to catch them later on. On those bright days, you want to get you a 1 ounce weight and some braided line and a creature bait and punch it through the matted hydrilla. The big girls will be in that shade under there, being comfortable. We're looking for an easy meal. Got me 2 pictures there. These some kids I had down for 5 days this week from McKendree College. Nate and Jacob with a pair of good ones. We had a blast chasing them around for 5 days.
Man, that looked like some good fun there, bud. Tell me about the crappie.
The crappie at Falcon Lake are just chewing. Find you a man-made brush pile, one that some of us have put out. The best depths are in that 15 to 20 foot range right now. Get over the top of the pile, drop an 1/8 ounce jig with an assortment of colors are working well. The biggest key though, when they start slow down biting one color, switch colors and you'll generate some more bites. And you can do that several times on one brush pile. And just continue to add and crappie to your live well. That'll get the maximum number you can out of each stop. Got a picture there with Ron with just a couple of typical Falcon Lake crappie there that sure do make some good eating.
Hey, Matt, I got a quick question for you. I'm coming there with Colin. He loves to catch bass around middle of November. Bass fishing good in Falcon then?
There's not a bad time to be down here. Sure, it's good. The weather actually won't be blazing hot then.
All right. Well, I'm going to call you on the way home, and we'll book a date. All right, bud. We got to go ahead and get to the FIBERTEX hotspots on the Lower Fresh region. He says Falcon Lake crappie are great target at this particular moment. Find the same man-made brush piles in 15 to 20 feet. Drop a 1/8 ounce jig in assorted colors to fill your limit, and definitely some fun fishing and great sightseeing now.
You know, there was
Great
not
eating.
a bad time to fish Lake Falcon,
are
except that
good
one time when you went.
You want
Bad time to go is when Rick goes.
Yeah, you want to stop a bite? Just tell me to go fishing someplace.
Murphy's Law.
I've shut down
No,
the
we're
hottest
gonna stop
bites
that.
all over the world.
Have you?
Yeah, one time or another. If you
That-
go to enough places,
that
you're gonna
takes
get
skill,
skunked.
I guess.
Well, maybe I should come to your house and it'll maybe slow Leo down a little bit.
Wow. That was out of left field, kinda.
No, but our little man, he's just.
Let's try it.
You were telling
Let's
us
try it.
during the commercial break how much more boys eat compared to Mia.
It's true.
So you're learning, Mama.
Yep, just come on over.
Yeah.
I like to test that theory.
Good dad. What happened to your belly?
It went away.
It's gone.
It's baby Leo's
Then
out.
Mike,
All right,
you're here.
guys, thanks for coming
Wow.
back. We'll see you next
I
week.
kept mine.